session of the subject urban and suburban transportation concept and strategy. Today we will try to understand that how the transit line could be planned or who can even provide or decide about the transit line. In this specific lecture, we will try to understand regarding different transit lines such as radial line, diametrical line, tangential line, circle or ring lines, and of course, we will also talk about the loop lines as well. And in all those five different type of a transit line, we will also try to understand that what is the role of trunk along with the branches and feeders in those five lines. What is its significance? My name is Dr. Asim Farouk. Uh, Regarding the transit line is basically the act of passing or through the passage of one line from one place to another place. Transit line provision, the basic purpose is to provide the convenience or transportation from one place to another as of a person or good, especially through local public transportation or through city transit lines. So now the next question is who can provide the transit line? Basically, the decision of the provision of the transit line is completely depending on the needs of the same city of the community, which will be defined by the local municipality, city department of transportation, along with other private stakeholders within the same city, of course. We have different type of a common transit system, such as flex route, demand response, volunteer, and transit van pods. Okay, but this session is mainly about the radial lines, is which is already mentioned in the lecture content. So as you can see here, before to jump in a detail, I would like to elaborate that radial lines have one terminal in the city center here and one terminal in the outskirt in the suburban area. As you can see here, so that specific line, they have a one transit station here and one transit station in the suburban area. So that means that the radial lines is basically connecting the suburbs with the city center. The second thing is it only follow the major demand direction. So where we have the maximum population, they only cover that specific part. And the only issue with the radial line, we will try to understand in the merits and demerits one by one. But you should understand that it have increasing demand when it's moving towards center, but it have decreasing demand in terms of a passenger or traveler outside of the center toward the suburbs. So which means that towards city center, it is economical, but in the outward movement, it is very less economical. So if we try to understand its merits and demerits, so its first point is that, of course, which we already discussed, that it connect the city center with the suburbs. The second point is it only operate and regulate on the dense network. So it means that it only follow the major demand directions. While the third point is about that it have the increasing demand toward the city center and decreasing in the outward direction. So they have decreasing passenger volumes when the same transit line is moving from suburbs to the within the city center. But when it's coming out from the city center towards suburbs, so they have less attractive passenger demand. And so now the issue is how we can financially run or operate our lines. So if the same line have issue in terms of a increasing passenger demand towards city center and decreasing in the outside. So if we consider in the peak hour, if we run the train in every 10 minutes, so what will happen if the same trains is moving away from the like city center? So as a transit planner, as a transportation system engineer, you need to understand that our core function should be that how we can run financially viable transit operations. And we also need to reduce the empty run. For that purpose, fit that passenger, that capacity demand in the short-term services may be used so the transit unit operate from the center only to any immediate point and back. For example, what you need to do, for example, if we have the maximum demand attraction from point 1 to point 5, so what we can do, we can only run the train between point 1 to point 7, so it can go forth and back, but only in those major demand areas. So we should not run the train on the whole network again and again, because we also want to reduce the empty run as well. Okay. And of course, its big demerit is that it only provide limited distribution within the city center, because every station is almost located after 1 kilometer. So we have the quite huge separation of the 1 kilometer. And its next demerit is that the transit or the transit station or the terminal station are located in a very highly dense populated area, which increase the attraction on the city center, as well as because the land value is also very high. So if you are planning for the extension, so we might have issue in the future. In the suburban areas, sometime the other modes such as buses and light rail transit, they have one terminal station which is basically connected with the rapid transit or other regional rail lines. This is the typical example of the diametrical lines. We will try to understand that which one is better if we compare radial lines with the diametrical lines, or what is basically diametrical lines. So what we can understand from that specific figure, the transverse are diametrical lines, which we also call the through lines as well, which connect suburban on different sides of the city center. So for example, if this is our city center, okay, this is the specific example of the Munich city, of the München. If this is our Hauptbahnhof, okay, so this is basically connected with the different through different diametrical lines, so which basically connect the suburbs on the different side of the city center. And the radial direction, basically diametrical line or the combination of the through as well as the radial line. Okay, we have two sections on different side on the different center city for the capacity utilization purpose. Okay. Diametrical lines are, of course, more effective than radial lines. Why? Because they serve more area and usually offer better distribution in the central city, and also different transfer opportunity we do have. Number first one, okay, is you can see here, if this is our city center, so it's connected on the east, west, south, and north on the all bounded lines. And the second point is it also have transfer of delays from their inbound to their outbound section. So inbound transportation is mainly about the receiving, while the outbound is mainly about the final destination. Because in diametrical line, the services will be provided on different grades and different sections. So we might have issue of the transfer of delays, because for example, if you are going, if one single line is operated on the second level, second underground level, and another one is operating on the seventh underground level, so we might have the transfer delay time to move from one point to another point. Diametrical lines could be straight or diagonal lines, which will be through that specific city center. And we can also come up with the L-shaped. So this is our L-shaped lines. You can see here, this one, and this is our U-shaped line as well, okay, like that. L-shaped line usually have provided with the less direct alignment, but provide more transfer point with other metro lines. If we are talking about the L shape, but if we are talking about the U-shaped line, so U-shaped line usually provide the better balance of the volume on the both side of the corridors. You can see here. So this is its typical example. The next transit line, we have the tangential lines. Of course, we all do know about the tangent line, which actually pass a one specific circle, but only intersecting our tangent through a very specific section. So a tangential lines or the crosstown lines follow the tangential direction with respect to the city center. So it's somehow connect or cross that specific city center, which have a bit less demand, okay, as compared to radial and diametrical lines, okay, and it's usually operated through the trunk lines, or you cannot put it to the major transit lines such as rail rapid or MRT or BRT or something like that. The next very much important, but before to go in a detail, I would like to just give you example that how the circle lines actually look like. So this is the one typical example from the Toei lines Tokyo, while another one is from the Beijing subway. As you can see here, different lines is moving and already cover the whole city, and again, all those lines are connected through the circle lines. Okay. So its main function is to provide a direct connection among different transit lines within the city center through the inner ring. Number five. Second point, second its biggest advantage is it have the effective distribution capacity between any different class of the transit line, such as the feeder line, trunk line, main lines, and even radial line. And it's always enables suburb to suburb direct trips while using the radial circle path. For example, as you can see here, if someone would like to go from here to like there, so he should not move from here and there like that. So he should move directly within that city center directly to here, and then using that circle line, he can complete his journey while not maneuvering in the whole line again and again. And its operation disadvantages is, of course, about the complexity, operating speed. To maintain that fixed cycle, operating speed will be a very bigger challenge for all those operators in trains to maintain that specific line. And we have huge kind of a delays always, so it's more open are vulnerable to delays because it always have 2 to 4 minute terminal time at every station. So of course we have a bit very less lake time or we have very limited recovery time. The second last topic is about the loop lines. As you can see here, we have the regular two-way lines which have a closed circle at one end. One end is completely closed, okay, here, like that. Here. So all those are the loop lines. And one way, it only provide in the one way operation. So such line may have only one terminal, of course, and it always provide the short haul or short services for the central business district areas, okay, which in terms of the collection and distribution of the passenger across the different lines which have less density or a bit in the kind of its loop line is actually used for the rail rapid transit lines which distribute the passenger across the city. The last topic is about trunk and branches and feeder. As you can see here, before to go in a detail, as you can see here in that specific line. So we have the trunk lines. This is our trunk lines, and these are our branches. Okay, this straight moving area is our trunk lines, and then we have our branches line. So basically, when we talk about the trunk with branches, so those are the two type which we provide. So branches was only provided for the direct service from the trunk lines. Okay. Regarding feeder, it only operate independently from those trunk lines where passenger need to transfer from the trunk to any feeder lines. But we will go there a bit later. First of all, we are trying to understand what is trunk with branches. So it always provided continuous service with no transfer. So for example, if you would like to go from here to like from third line to here, so you can go directly in like that specific line. And you don't need to always transfer because all those lines are operating from the same lines. OK, they have the same station. And you don't need always the transfer station because it operated from the same grade line. And they have very less or limited terminal time because they have very high frequency. When we talk about the trunk with feeders, okay, so each line for the purpose of optimization and higher performance, we are trying to understand that how those passenger, for example, if someone is want to go from here to like that line, so of course he will go in like that area, and then from here he will take that trunk lines trunk line to go to that specific part. So that part is covered through feeder from here to here, and that part is covered through the trunk line. So they have a bit more higher performance on the trunk lines, but have a bit lower performance on the feeder line. And the only difference between both those two, that in the trunk with branches, we do not need transfer, and here we need to transfer. Okay. Thank you very much. If you have any